Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over LTCN BCHG ETCG and HZEN as well as ethe and how the ETH trusts are taking off and really popping off hard on the news of the approval of spot ether ETFs. With that being said, let's get it. Okay, so you can see the portfolio here. Big boost on ETCG. So we're not quite at break even, but getting close. Again, kind of pretty much already figured this was going to happen. If they approve the spot ether ETFs, this thing is going to skyrocket. Still up 20% on mana. HZEN, haven't started loading the boat on that yet, but we can do that anytime. That's not really a priority right now. But I'm sure, as you guys know, the priorities that we have change day to day because that is the nature of trading and investing, unless you just buy index funds and hold or something like that. So why did the markets dump today? Well, pretty simple. Federal Reserve came out with their meeting minutes and said that they're worried over a lack of progress on inflation, hinting at the possibility of further rate hikes. Again, I can leave this in the description for you below. Do I think they're going to hike rates? No, not really. It's a possibility, but I would say the likelihood is basically non-existent at this point. We're in an election year. Not only is it an election year, but it's a midterm year. Okay, a lot of seats in the House and the Senate are up for grabs this year. Again, this happens every 2 years, the midterms, and every 4 years for the presidential election on even-numbered years. So the market portfolio on Robinhood, unfortunately, really got hammered pretty hard today, but it's all good. Definitely expecting it to go back up. So the Fed Watch tool, this is the important thing to note here, okay? So the first rate cut is basically expected in November. Before the Fed came out with their meeting minutes, it was expected in September that the first rate cut was going to happen. You can see there's still a high probability here, but it's shifted slightly more towards basically a pause in September. So throughout all of these different estimations for rate probabilities, you guys can see that there is none, almost absolutely zero on the table for a hike. So I think the market's pretty much calling the Fed's bluff, and what happened today was an overreaction by the markets. The market's probably likely, again, I can't guarantee it, but they're likely going to go up again tomorrow. If this truly is an overreaction and the markets are not genuinely worried about it. So it seems that the US SEC has approved the exchange applications for the spot ether ETFs. Likely they're probably going to be listed on exchanges soon. Again, the one way to know for sure is that this thing gets listed on the DTCC or whatever it's called. I'll have to look it up later. But usually when something gets listed on that, it's pretty much a done deal. So again, I'll leave this in the description. You guys can look at it in your own time. But one more time, we'll look at this. This is the deadlines for the spot ether trusts. Spot ether ETFs or trusts being turned into ETFs like ethe, for example. Now, I do suspect ETCG and Ethereum Classic to moonshot once Ethereum starts taking off. Again, it is an oscillator to Ethereum. That's one of the reasons why we have ETCG. We didn't just blindly buy it. We have a reason for buying it. So you can see the first deadline is here today. There's another one tomorrow for ARK. And if they do not get to approve today or tomorrow, which it appears that they were approved today, but again, we don't have any proof of that because I looked up the ticker symbol ARKE, which is the only one we have right now, and did not see anything pop up for those. So it probably still has to get put into the works of being listed. But if there's no approval this month, then likely there will be some kind of approval in August, because again, you have the big boys coming in, which is BlackRock and Fidelity, and when they want something done, they'll get it done. Okay. And I'm pretty confident that the SEC will approve it at that time if it has not been approved already. And this is basically just fake news, which again, I don't think it's fake news. I think this is legit. So let's get into the content here on LTCN and the rest of the trusts. So LTCN still looks good. Slight pullback, but again, it's not a big red bar, so not too concerned about it. Support is between $24 to $27. The swing high up here is $55. And again, that lines up with this huge control bar here. Once we get past that, I suspect the price is going to go to 75 and then to 100 to 135 ultimately. So from the current price to the swing high up here, as you guys can see, it's about an 80% move. going from the bottom of the support range here, which again is a pretty steep drop, but not nearly as much as it would be if it was to drop like down to this white trend line, which again at this point looks unlikely. So that'd be 132% move on that. BCHG still looking very good. So we have the breakout candle here, looking for a confirmation candle, just like LTCN. Don't have it yet. This tweezer top here is not instilling confidence in me, so maybe we see a pullback into this trend line and then a pop. That is a possibility. So as of right now, support is still sitting between $10 to $12.70, resistance $18 to $20, and the swing high up here at roughly about $24. So from the current price to the swing high, pretty big move, about 93% move. From the bottom of the range, which again would line up almost perfectly with that trend line, to the swing high, about 133% move. HZEN, this would be the breakout candle, although it's, well, I mean, it's not really like, we want to see it kind of like slightly pop its head out of here, or like kind of something more like BCHG. When you have this big, huge candle outside of the trend line here, that doesn't instill confidence in me. It could just pull back and then maybe bounce off of there. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But the trend line as of right now is 490. Resistance is roughly about, we'll say 680 or so to $8, and the swing high up here is about 1050. So from the current price to the swing high, be looking at about 91% move. From the pullback into the trend line to the swing high, you'd be looking at about 116% move. And again, you got to remember, ETCG and ethe are going up because of the spot ether news, whereas a lot of these other grayscale trusts, if they are pulling back, or even native crypto, for example, like we'll take a look at that, you guys can see that Bitcoin has pulled back pretty hard, and a lot of these other native cryptocurrencies have also pulled back quite a bit. Like Render, for example, we've been buying this. This just pulled back from 11 to like 1020. So the Ethereum related things are going up because of the spot ether ETF news, whereas everything else is probably pulling back because of the Fed meeting minutes. This is just how markets work. So ETCG, this is looking very bullish. We got a break of the trend line, break of the zone. Just need to get a confirmed close above. So as of right now, still pretty much this trend line, so 1420 to about 1580 up here at the top of the zone is going to be the target. Support range, I should say. So 1780 to $20 is going to be that resistance up there. So from the current price to the range high, about 23%. From the trend line to the range high, it's going to be about 40%. And again, ETCG's all-time high is almost $100 a share. So there is a lot of room to move up on this. So ethe, this is looking very bullish. It does look like we got a breakout of this cup and handle pattern. Again, we still have one more trading day, but I'm pretty confident this thing is actually going to break out and confirm close above the handle here. So the target for that is all the way up here at 5440. Again, that is all-time highs. Well, actually, it's not all-time highs, but pretty dang close. So the all-time high is actually 67, but we, in terms of the November peak, that is actually considered to be a new all-time high. So from the current price to the target, about 60%. If this thing does pull back into the zone and the trend line, which could happen, to the target, it'd be about 119% move. Phil G, in my opinion, this thing is in a perfect setup. The risk here, I would say, is likely that it could just pull back from here down to this trend line, which again is a pretty steep drop. But if you don't put in all your money at once, then you don't have to worry about it. You can just DCA down, and when it gets like say closer to a support zone, then you can ape in. Again, that is not financial advice. You guys can do what you want to with your own money. I'm just simply saying, if this is how we were going to do it, this is how we would do it. So the all-time high up here is at $400. The current price, you guys can see the current price, $115, and basically the bottom of this trend line is going to be sitting at around $31, which again is below the support. So from the trend line to the swing high up here, about 1,250%. Again, that's a big move, and we are bullish on Filecoin. We have a significant amount of the underlying token. So GBAT, breakout candle, confirmation candle. Now it looks like we're getting a third potentially bullish hammer candle here. That's very good. That's a very bullish sign. So we had 5 weeks of green. The last 2 times we broke out from these trend lines. We're in week 4 right now. We'll see if this thing continues up past week 5 or not. But as of right now, the pullback target would be roughly about $9. So pretty much look between $9 to $10, I would say, for support. 32 is going to be the high up there. Okay, so from the current price to the high, 77% move. And from the potential pullback area to the high, roughly about 290%. So GLIV, this thing had a breakout candle. This would ideally be the confirmation candle here. So the current support is going to be roughly about that red EMA. It's about $20, $21, and then the high up here is going to be $80. So from the current price to the high, about 142% move. And from the pullback area to the high, you'd be looking at about 282%. So pick your poison on that one. G-Link, this does look like potentially it might end up being a breakout candle. We'll just have to wait and see. If it is not, it will likely pull back into the zone, which again is between 66 to 83. And 220 is going to be the high up there. So from the current price to the high, about 95% move. From the bottom of the support zone to the high, which again, there's no guarantee it's going to go back down there. Just simply pointing that out in case it does. 246% move. So GSOL, this thing has completely defied all expectations. It's very bullish. This is what's known as a pullback in time. Basically, when the price goes sideways for a very long time after hitting all-time highs, instead of dumping, it just pulls back slightly, goes sideways, and then rips. That gives time for all the indicators to reset. That's known as a pullback in time, not a pullback. There's a different story. Or these are two different things, two different scenarios. So 350 would be on this trend line. That'd be the pullback area. Or perhaps even this trend line, 390. So just keep in mind roughly about 350 to 400. All-time highs up here at roughly about 580. So current price to all-time highs, 22%. We'll just say this green trend line pullback to all-time highs about 51, 52%. And then the lower trend line to all-time highs, roughly about 65% move. So GXLM, we have a break of this trend line here that's very bullish. You can see it's a massive candle. That's a very good sign. That's a very bullish sign. But we still need to get out of this channel. The channel is still kind of a problem. So I would say probably the lower area of this channel, lower area of the trend line is probably going to be the support range. So somewhere between about 30 to 32. And then the swing high up here is 69. So from the current price to the swing high, we'd be looking at about 66%. And then from, let's say, roughly about the bottom of the trend line where those two lines converge, you'd be looking at about 190% move on that. So MANA, this one does look like it's about to have a breakout candle here. And as you guys can see, last time we had that above this kind of sideways line here. We closed above it, and then the next week was just absolutely moonshots. So something very similar could happen next week if this confirms bullish. We'll just have to wait and see. It does still also need to get above the EMAs too. There is that. So the high up here is going to be about $70. The support is between $18 to $20. And the current price to the all-time high would be about 167% move. From about the bottom of the zone to the all-time high would be roughly about 288%. Zcash, this thing is mostly moving sideways, even though it did break this trend line, which is bullish. At this point, I would say it's going to chop sideways, maybe bust out of there to the upside. I would consider this right here to be accumulation. That's just my opinion. We'll have to see how that plays out. But as of right now, the support is still between 430 to 510. And the resistance is going to be 7.25 to about 1060. So from the current price to top of the zone is about 95% move. And then pretty much from the bottom of support to the top of the resistance is 144%. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.